here. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you for having me.
This is Katie Clingan, Nee Phillips, who I taught years ago.
1998 and 1999. You're welcome.
Oh my God.
We were the last class of the 20th.
Of the millennium. Wow, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive to think about. Okay, so now you are a teacher.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about how you got into that, because I know it wasn't a straight path into it.
No, it was about as curvy as you can possibly imagine, like Mountain Road curvy. I come from a large family of teachers and educators, and I think the only thing we haven't been is like an athletic director. Everything else, we've had counselors and teachers and principals and vice principals and coaches.
Yeah, your mom was a coach, right?
Yeah, mom and dad were technically. Dad didn't teach very long in New Mexico. He did most of his teaching in Texas before they moved here. But so you have to preface any conversation with anybody in my family with, well, we come from a family of educators, because in just a different world. But I think my start was the fact that I said, I will never be a teacher. That's what I said graduating high school. I don't care what I do, I just don't want to be a teacher.
Yep.
And my sister had already come back and was teaching in elementary school with my stepmom, who taught elementary school, and my mom was here teaching high school along with my Aunt Joanne, and my Aunt Rissy teaches high school, and my Aunt Meg was teaching elementary. It goes on and on and on.
Right.
So I just wanted to be different.
Yep.
I think fundamentally. And so I went to college and played volleyball and got a degree in biology, and then went, now what? And I left the country for a year, and funny enough, I went to Columbia, South America, and taught English as a second language. Go figure. And just, experienced life a little bit, came back, and then I ended up actually joining the military. And in the military, I used my biology degree. I can't tell you what I did, but just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I worked on traumatic brain injury in a research facility for the military for the majority of my career,
right.
About 6 years. And then when I finished that, I had gotten married, and we were moving every 3 years, and so I did at-home work, managed things, and then I got divorced and went, oh crap, I have to have a career again. And so moved to Texas, and I worked basically at a dealership on the service side. Had never done it. My friend ran it, and he said, all you have to do is be able to handle people. And I said, I don't like people. So okay. And he was like, you'll pick up the hang of it. And I did. It was fine. It's a lot, because nobody ever comes to see you at a dealership service department when they're happy. They're always mad and angry and not their best selves. And I finally just got really burnt out, and somebody was like, why don't you're good with kids. You don't have any because you're smart, but you're good with kids. And I was like, well, yeah. And they're like, why don't you be a teacher? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. And then I slept on it, and I thought, you know what? I need something kind of fast, because I'm getting super burnt out, and I just need a change. And maybe with the background, I can kind of wing it through an alt-cert program and be able to finish in a couple months and then get a job, because everywhere needs teachers. It's like, and if you can sweet talk things, you can go to different states, and one day maybe I'll try to get the national certificate, where that's a lot though. And so I went the alternative certification route in Texas, and I did the book work in, I think it's supposed to take 3 to 6 months, and I did it in 4 weeks, the first part of it in 4 weeks. and got through that really quickly so that I could go into a classroom and start and then finish the rest of it. That was the plan, but
Yeah.
I should have known better, here's a book on how to teach, and then here, go in the classroom. Are two
Yeah.
very, very different
It's a different game.
scenarios. Yeah.
It's a different game. It's funny, we do have, and I've noticed it with Robin too, but we do have a lot in common. My reactions to things, my attitudes about things are very similar. When I graduated from high school, I planned to be a mining engineer. And I went to an engineering college.
I can see that. You have a very engineering brain. It makes a lot more sense now.
And when I got and my father had mentioned, my father was a teacher too, mentioned, don't you think you might try teaching? This was right after I graduated. I said, I'll never be a teacher. And he said, what? My life is worthless or something? Because he had been teaching his whole life, and his mother taught, and
right,
his sister, his brother-in-law, it's just this huge group. And I was embarrassed. And I was like, no, I'm no. You've been great. and then he died when I was 19. I was in college studying when he passed away. And by the time I had gotten my bachelor's, I had decided I was going to teach.
Yeah.
But my bachelor's was in experimental psychology.
Again.
So I can teach a rat to do amazing things.
Well, you taught me to struggle through Shakespeare. We were sitting on the porch, my dad and my stepmom and I were sitting on the porch yesterday, and we have this weird Shakespearean, verbiage book. And my dad's flipping through it, and he goes, pizzle! And I just go, oh, God. He goes, what's that word? And I was like, maybe that's for another time. If you would have taught that in class, maybe you would have paid more attention. I'm assuming you know what pizzle is in Shakespearean. What is it, vernacular? No, just vocabulary, I guess.
Well, it's the longer version of where you do it, isn't it?
I don't know, you're the English person, I'm a science nerd.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. But I just thought it was funny because
My favorite Shakespearean insult is,
Devil damn thee black, thou cream-faced loon.
I think it's funny.
mine is not that. I tried if you remember correctly, I tried my hardest not to remember Shakespeare.
Well, now but you were a pretty good student though. You were no slouch in the classroom.
I was pretty average. I was a little bit above average. I took all the honors classes, but I had to work.
Yeah.
And, we talked about this a while ago. In your class, your AP Honors English, I was like, I want Miss Mack. There was nobody else I wanted. And I remember walking into, because we knew each other, because
Right.
you were friends with my family, Jody, and you taught with Mom, and so it wasn't like we didn't know.
Right.
And you knew Robin, you just didn't have her. And so I just felt like it was best just to be honest with you. And so I was like, I really want to take this class. I want to do the writing and all this stuff, but I'm probably going to read the Cliff Notes version of these books because I don't have a lot of time in the day, and I don't mind reading. I just don't have time to sit down and do it. And you said, okay, well, you're going to get a B. And I was like, I'm okay with that. And that's how that was my senior year. That's how we started. And I worked my butt off for that B. And in my head, I was like, I could have gotten an A if. And I don't know, I was just okay with that because the rest of it was awesome.
Well, and the thing is, I appreciate anybody who will be direct with me. It's a lot easier to work with someone who's direct, and most teenagers, truth be told, want to be direct. They're kind of in a stage where they're learning how to be false. They're just starting their experience of, I've got to keep certain things to myself, and I've got to be false.
Yeah.
And So anytime a teenager was willing to say, look, I'm not into the reading, I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's just
Fair
funny
enough.
though because I tear through books now. Like I just finished it's a fantasy series. It's the series that How to Train Your Dragon was based off
Oh,
of.
I love that.
And I read those 3 books. And here's the thing is that I thought the series was done. I don't like to read series until they're done because I will motor through those books. And if I have to wait for their process to get that last book, I'm like, so I didn't know that. I thought it was 3 books long, and then I got to the end of the 3rd book, and I'm like, this isn't the end. I was looking at like 200 pages, like, there's no way they finished this story in 200 pages, and I was really bent out of shape. But I finished it. But now I just consume that kind of stuff. But for me, it's different. It's not Ethan Frome. And,
Right.
Which is a great story, but my brain was like,
Well, and understand, it is a stage. It is an actual stage. The contrary stage.
yeah.
And every human being has to go through it.
Mm.
They may not want to, they may not see themselves as likely to, but when you're at a certain developmental stage, your inclination is always going to be, no, it's going to be resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I guess I didn't take it quite so personally because I figured it was natural.
Yeah, you seemed really, you were like, I understand.
Yeah.
It's like, cool.
I
This is amazing.
I didn't read every book I was assigned when it was assigned.
Did you do Cliff Notes?
I don't know.
Remember those yellow and black goddess books
Yes.
that you can get from Hastings?
Cliff's,
Man,
Cliff's Notes
saved my
existed.
life.
Cliff Notes existed, but I didn't live in places where there was a bookstore. I lived in places so small
Yeah,
that there was a gas station.
that's it.
That's it. And so, I can't remember how I did it. Mostly, I think I did it by listening to discussions and what the teacher emphasized in class.
Yeah.
And so if the teacher emphasized it, then I knew, okay, that's going to come up. And I did like plays. I liked
Mhm.
Shakespeare. I liked any play, and I liked any poem. So, and short stories didn't bother me. I was happy to read a short story.
Yeah.
So, there were some things that were assigned, and I don't think the teachers read them that closely, to be honest with you. There were moments in my life where I thought back and realized, yeah, I don't think the teacher...
Well, they're only human. They're only human. But I really liked the conversation parts in your class. And I was in a really amazing group of students. Like my high school class, and I know it sounds like I'm biased, but I saw other classes before and after me, and they were just a little different. We just had this really big core group of just fun nerds that just really enjoyed like conversation. And so I think I got more from the conversation of what we did. And like, a friend that I've known since kindergarten, and they're like, well, it kind of made me feel this way. And you go, I didn't think about it that way. And there were just so many of us that could just throw in whether we read it or not. Like,
Right.
Why would somebody feel that way? Like just drawing from life, not necessarily from having read the book. And so the conversations were always fun because you were amazing at facilitating well, just tell me what you're thinking. Who cares if it's right or wrong? Like, we might giggle at you for a second, but then we'll kind of dissect what you mean.
Right.
If
Yeah.
there wasn't humor in there, the love poetry from across the room, all those fun things. But it was always with that mentality of, I'm not a staunch, like, you will know literature!
Yeah, no.
It was more like, do you get the big idea of why this is so cool? And that always helped.
Yes. Well, I taught you came to visit me at the institution. Do you remember that visit?
Yeah, and we, myself and Amanda, we walked around saluting you because we were both active duty, and so we just walked around, and you were like, quit. Quit it! Quit it! Because technically your rank, you were a major?
I was a light colonel when you came, and then I became a colonel.
Yeah, and so technically we are supposed to, and we would walk off and then come back and face you and salute you. It's probably the most annoyed I've ever made an officer in my life.
Well,
so thank you for that.
All the kids, when we walked out, I was walking you back to your car, and the kids were snapping salutes at you from 100 feet away. They were like, it's a real person, it's a military
And I
person."
think I was in jeans.
No, you were in uniform. They recognized it.
Amanda, I thought Amanda was in uniform because maybe I don't remember.
Maybe.
I've lived.
Yes, well, we all have. You are now facing how many years?
I am about to start my third year.
You're about to start your third year of teaching. The third year was the first year I felt like, okay, I kind of know what's going on. The first year I just...
First year was all about classroom management.
Oh my gosh, I've talked about that so much.
I will verbal diarrhea that because it's the thing that if I had to make a curriculum for teachers for an alt-cert program, half of it would be classroom management and the other half would be the other bullshit that goes with it. But classroom management, I mean, you don't have to be an amazing teacher, but you have to have a good, gotta do that.
You have to have a way to deal with the outer pressures. Well, and the outer pressures on just the record keeping. Keeping track of grades, keeping track of materials, keeping track of attendance. The real Achilles heel for me, it took me so long to really figure that out.
It's all on computer now.
Yes, even on computer. Okay?
We don't have those big red books.
Oh, I love those big red books.
I know, I go buy them.
Yes.
Because I like to have the hand grade, so when their parents come in, they're like, why are they doing it? And you just go, and you open up that grade book, and then you put the two little line things, and they're like, no, not done, didn't turn it in. I'm like, this is why.
Yes.
But they're fifth graders. Well, I'm not asking them to turn in, Tchaikovsky written piano thing. I'm asking them to tell me the difference between a solid and a liquid.
Right.
So it's not that it's that hard, it's that they're choosing not to do it. And
Yeah.
this is how I show you.
And there's something so assertive about that handwritten record and about you sitting there saying, there it is, there's the physical evidence.
Yeah.
Physical evidence
But
of
then
what we're talking about.
Because I've been at the educational dinner table my entire life, I also know that when they turn in crappy stuff, I put it right through my scanner, I upload it, so when their parents come in and they're like, well, we didn't get this, and I'd be like, well, I sent it home, I made a copy, don't worry, and I can print it right out and be like, it has my handwritten notes on there, or whatever the case is. But the trick is you do it at the beginning of the year and train them, and then you don't have to do it later on.
Yeah. High school freshman parents, whenever they called me, I kept them on the line for as long as I possibly could.
Love it.
So that the next time they started to reach for the phone, they went,
Do I have time for this? Do I have the mental fortitude to talk to this lady? I love it. I'm probably going to put that into play this year, 100%.
Because if they have to pay, they really have to pay with time, and you listen to them, they'll finally talk themselves into saying what you have been saying all along, which is your child should do the homework and your child should be treated like every other child.
Yeah.
They can get to both of these by themselves.
And just lead them in the
Yes,
general direction.
just let them lean into it, and then eventually you can say, is there anything else at all? Is there anything? Because I want you to feel like you've been heard. I want you to know I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
And when they're finally completely worn out and hang up, I'm like, yeah, you're gonna think.
Yeah.
You're gonna think twice.
And I tell my kids, I'm like, I love your parents, they're great, but I don't want to talk to them if I don't have to. And then at the beginning of the year, I just tell them, I am going to ask that you come to every meeting with your parents.
Yes.
Because you guys lie. You and they're like, woo, I'm like, okay, you stretch the truth. And so I want you sitting there, and when your parents say, my kid said this, I'm going to be like, okay, we know that's not the whole truth. Do you want to tell them the whole truth, or would you like me to? That's my classic line, and they go,
Yeah.
and then the parents are like, and then I always end it with the classic line too. It's great. I watch, hey, lean on a kid and like, listen, buddy, here's the thing. Please don't record this because, are you recording this?
I'm recording.
Okay, well, what I tell them is like, and this is the truth, God's honest truth. I say, you are so lucky to have parents who come in and advocate for you. And I was like, and what you just did is make those parents, you made your mom and dad look dumb.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. And then I'm like, do you understand that some people don't have these parents? And they don't have people that advocate for them, and you're using that. And then the kids are like, yes, yes, and it's that. And I know you're probably, it's not the right thing to be doing, the guilt thing, but we all grew up with it.
No,
80s
no.
kids were guilted into everything, and we're still breathing. Guilt is
Guilt is a
motivator
healthy
sometimes.
response to responsibility.
Yeah.
If you do something that you shouldn't have done, you should feel guilty.
Yeah.
It's an important experience.
I guess
It
it's
is
psychosis if you don't, right?
Exactly.
You're technically labeled
And
as psychotic.
And you can't
Yeah.
mature unless you learn that
Yeah.
if you hurt someone, you should feel guilty.
Yeah.
If you lie to someone, if you cheat someone, you should feel like garbage.
Yeah. But I prefer to not have the parents involved because I teach 5th graders, and my first year was 4th graders, so last year was my first year 5th graders. And when I taught 4th graders, like, man, I hope I never teach 5th graders. And then they were like, hey, we need you to move up. And I was like, okay, so 5th grade it is, here we go. And I enjoy them, but they're just old enough to understand that my relationship with them in that classroom is not with their parents. And I think that they are finally old enough to kind of be like, oh, so it's just mine.
Yes.
This is my relationship with the teacher. And I don't, I just say, always come to me first. And if you don't like my answer, have your parents come in, that's fine. But at least let me have the first, question. And I said, and I'll always do that to you. I will never just call your parents because you're butt heads. I'm
No.
gonna give you so many opportunities to be like, ooh, Miss Clingan, I'm sorry I'm being a butthead. That's my fault. And I'll be like, great, tomorrow's a new day, let's start and go forward. That's my promise to you. Your promise to me is this is our little family. And no, it's not blood and it's not, but you're with me longer than you're with your parents during the school year. So it has to be some kind of family. If not, what's the point? I mean, they're 11 years old.
Well, and you know what? The thing is, the students are your clients. The parents sometimes think I'm your employer, but they're not. The community employs you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not them exclusively. They're not the only ones paying you. The whole community
Yeah.
has hired you to help contribute to the power in the community, to contribute successful scholars. And so your students are the relationship.
They're the point.
Yeah.
And I've had one parent say, well, we pay your bills. And I said, well, we need to talk about that because I need a raise. And it kind of cuts it off. I'm happy to talk about money with you guys any time of the week.
Yeah, the parents are not paying your bills. The community is.
Yeah.
And so it's a whole different, and I've had to remind parents of that.
Yeah. It's
worst
weird.
parent I ever had to deal with was a colonel.
Oh, I thought he was going to say it was my mother. Really? She was pretty chill. I'm just
No, a colonel was talking to me in a very disrespectful way. I had picked up the phone at lunch and he was yelling about something, and I finally said, you're not going to talk to me like that anymore. You're going to stop that right now.
And I bet he did, didn't he?
Yep.
The military's a different place. You can, I loved it because you can say what you think and this be like, okay? And people like, okay, because you can't really go and tell your parents, and as long as you're not beating somebody up or, physically assaulting them, being mentally tough on people is not a bad thing in the military. And so when you're just like, man, that was horrible. I appreciate the effort, but you need to redo that, rethink where you're coming from, and I'm going to give you a week. And if you can't figure it out then we're going to have some like consequences. And you're not being mean, you're just being very direct, and mine usually had a little bit of sarcasm with it, but and then you move on with your life, and the ability to be like, okay, I screwed up, but she's expecting me to come back with this different thing, and the mentality of going, okay, done with that minute, and now I got to move forward is amazing in the military. They don't. People are like, oh, they never quit. They quit sometimes, but then they're like, okay, now I got to get back up though, and I had my moment. I got to figure this out.
It doesn't have to be love driven. That's one of the things that
No.
one of my best friends there at the Institute was a military man. He was in the ROTC prep program.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, people don't have to like each other. They have a mission. You get the mission done. It's not about liking each other. You may not.
Respect each other to a certain level, and for me it was very different. I was in a lab, but the mentality of having somebody to have your back, even somebody you're like, oh, I can't stand you, but I know when I go do this that you'll be there, because you don't care if you like me, you care because we have something to accomplish, and we can't do it by ourselves. So there's always that one guy or that one girl you're like,
So irritating.
why do you have to be this way? Why do you have to question everything? The mission was simple, like go pick up cigarette butts. Why are you going, well, do we need to orchestrate a distinct pattern? And I'm like, no, get in a line and walk that way and do this with your head and look back and forth. And they're like, but Sergeant, if we do a star pattern and then we can cover the area twice as much with less, and I'm just like, why don't you work that out for next time? This time, let's just go ahead and do that line, and then we can practice what you would like for next time. And then you turn around and say a lot of naughty words to yourself as you're stomping off in your boots. That's 90% of military. From my perspective.
Well, and I think it's so interesting. I wonder, do any of your students know that you have a military background? Do you tell them?
I do.
And what's their reaction?
They're scared sometimes, or they think it's cool. Like in the beginning, when you're making that connection with them, I'll be like, anybody want to learn a little bit of self-defense? And just something like, hey, if someone's doing this, here's things you can do. And they'll be like, can I do it? And I'm like, yeah, put me in a headlock. And then and they weigh like 70 pounds. So they all think I'm strong. Because I'm like, look, boop, boop, boop. And you just put them open and they're like, whoa. And it's just that weird bond. I've had them ask me at recess, and they didn't want to play. They all wanted to learn how to march. And I was like, I would love to, but I can't, because if I'm teaching you how to march and a parent drives by, they're going to call the school and they're going to pretend I'm being military Jane, and I don't want to deal with your parents. And they were like, okay, we understand. I said, but maybe in the classroom, if we have some extra time one day, I can show you like the different techniques and whatever. And they salute, and it's all horrible and wrong. And I'm a big stickler. Like, I see bad saluting in like movies and stuff, and I have to
like this.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're not supposed to see your palm. Like, oh, your fingers should be apart. I just lose it, and I have to like just mentally disconnect from the military. It's horrible. But
now, you are a science teacher for these 10 and 11-year-olds. Is that right?
yes, I teach science only.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
So do you change, or do the kids change classes? How does it?
The kids change. So in Texas, most 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in elementary will have some sort of rotation. Depending on the amount of kids in that grade, you'll either have 2 teachers that swap back and forth, or you'll have a group of 3. And so with me only teaching science, I always have to go into a group of 3. So I teach science, there's a math teacher, and then there's the English language arts reading teacher. And so I really like that because you get the kids for longer. I get them for an hour, whereas when you're doing a dual, you have one teacher that teaches science and math usually, and one teacher that teaches like social studies and language arts, but they don't teach social studies. It's the stepchild in elementary school in Texas. They don't test it, they don't do anything, so they go through the process. There's barely a curriculum, but it's really just the English teachers can bring in social studies. But at that point, all they're teaching them is Texas history, and it's Texas. That's what they do. But so that the thing that I hate about that is that the math teacher, the science math teacher, everybody always emphasizes the importance of math, which I'm not going to argue. But then if something takes a little bit longer, they pull it from that science. And so science goes from being like 45 minutes to 30 minutes to, oh, well, we had a test, so I just skipped it today. They can't do that with the 3-man group. They can't skip my class.
Right.
And so I like that. And I feel like the teachers really like not having to teach two different things because they have a set time and there is no bending. You have to get what you get done in that time frame. And so most of the teachers would prefer to be on a 3-man team, but I just didn't get. They were like, well, why don't you go back and get a certification in math? And I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to teach math. I want to teach science. That's where I'm super nerdy and exciting. If I had to teach math, I'd be like, okay, here we go, you know. And I come in like ready to rock and roll with science. But
I loved teaching math. But
I can see that. Engineer brain.
yes, but the problem with math, lower than college, the math in high school, most math, not all, most math in high school is drudgery. You know, once you've got the concept, then the kids have to just slog through these problems and you have to slog through with them. And that wasn't great. But when I first started teaching as a math teacher. Mm-hmm. And one of the deals I made with the guys who hired me, because they moved me to math 2 weeks before the year started. I was hired to teach English. Then 2 weeks before the year started, they said, we want you to teach math. I said, okay, but that means that next year, if there's an English teacher opening, I get first dibs. Mm-hmm. And they said, okay, and so I ended up getting the English gig.
Was that at Goddard?
No, I was in Demick.
Were you in Socorro too?
I did my stupid teaching in Socorro.
Stupid teaching?
Stupid teaching.
At least you got to do that. I didn't.
Yeah, I got to do stupid teaching. Yeah. I learned a lot about myself as a human being during my stupid teaching. I didn't learn a lot about teaching. Mm-hmm. I learned me. And, you know, if you've been in a family of teachers, you're starting at the 10-yard line.
Agreed.
100%. You know stuff without realizing you know stuff. But there are things you don't know. And so they video
binders and binders and binders and binders full of stuff that I don't know about teaching. I couldn't, like, ego aside, so much I don't know about teaching. Like, I listen to some people talk about it and it's their craft. And they know these like intricate woven theories, and if this kid is showing this and this is the way to fix it, and I'm like, dude, my way of fixing it is like I just binders and books of stuff that I don't know about education, the theory of education, pedagogy, the vocabulary. Oh my gosh, my first IEP, I had a whole notebook of, and they'd say, where did I be like, I'd write it down the best I could spell it, because, you know, it's, and then I went to the special education head, and I said, hey, can I set up a time? I will bring you food, or I will bring you beer or whatever outside of school. I don't want to get fired on my first year, but whatever you need. I just need to sit down, and I don't need the definition. I can look that up. I need the real life, like, okay, this is what this means. and this is what you're doing. And because you know this, and I've listened to my parents advocate for their students and my sister, but I didn't know that it was called advocating for students. I thought it was just saying, this is what's best for this. Like, hey guys, get rid of all the crap, and just, this kid belongs in a classroom with people that are smarter than him because it will motivate him. Or this kid belongs in a classroom where he can feel like he's the smartest, and it gives him confidence, and they're different, and they don't need to say, and they're like, oh, well, that's advocating. I'm like, oh, why didn't you just say that?